So, have you ever been wandering along down your little path, and all of a sudden, there's a huge raging river in front of you, and you can see that your path ends on this side of the river and picks up on the other side of the river, but by golly, no matter how hard you look, you cannot find a bridge. Anyone ever been there? So, whether it's a tiny body of water or a huge raging river, what Z and I have experienced and know is that when you ask for help, the way will be shown. Right? Okay, so here's the thing. In Centers for Spiritual Living, we have something that no other movement, no other nothing philosophy, no one else has this. The 5-step prayer that if you have taken foundations or any other class here, you have learned. And if you haven't, you might want to consider it because it's very powerful. Life-changing, powerful stuff. This 5-step treatment prayer that we use in Centers for Spiritual Living. We love this prayer. We love this kind of prayer. I mean, we are ministers in this philosophy, so you could assume that we might like this prayer. And there's another kind of prayer that we also use, which sounds a little bit like, help. Help me. Yeah. So what we know is that no matter what kind of prayer you pray, it works. And no matter what kind of prayer you pray, you are praying to that all-knowing, all-loving, all-powerful, all-present Spirit, which means you're not just praying when you say help to some outside power that Z describes. You want to describe?
I describe as a white, cisgender male, vintage cloud dweller who occasionally goes off his meds. So that's like old school God, and we were taught that old school God was only outside. Yeah, now we know not true. Yeah.
So we are praying when we ask for help, even when we say, y'all, you, Spirit, help me. We know that that is the Spirit, the knowing within us as well, right? Everywhere outside of us as well as in. So I want to clarify that because this morning we're going to talk about asking for help from Spirit. Now, the cool thing about asking for help from Spirit is when we ask, well, you can ask, that's not enough because you got to ask and then you got to listen. And then you got to follow what you hear when you're listening, right? Oh, I love that y'all giggled right there because that means you know. So help will always come. And sometimes when we ask and listen, what we're guided to is who else to ask, like maybe other humans or other angels or whatever it might be. But when we ask, there will be an answer. And we're each this morning going to share with you a story about how we asked and heard answers.
Yes.
Reverend Z.
Thank you very much, Reverend Melissa. Aren't we polite? We do this. We talk to each other like that in the van, too. Okay.
No, I'm Reverend Doctor in the van.
Yeah, I absolutely gets addressed like that at all times. All right. So there is one trick about asking for help, I got to say, which is you have to remember to do it, right? I mean, don't we all know those times when you most needed to ask and we forget? Yeah. So we actually have a little hack for that, which is we ask for help all the time. All the time. It's amazing. So big things and little things, I have to say, I kind of feel like I'm cheating in life sometimes because I do it even for like really little things, you know, like I'll be trying to unscrew a jar and I try all the human physical things that still doesn't work and I'll just go kind of center myself, ask for help, and then, I mean, like I say, it feels weird sometimes, like I'm a superhero or something. I'm like, everything can happen because I'm going to align with that energy to do it, right? It's pretty amazing and pretty fun. All right. Now, I do want to share today, though, about one of those rivers, those big river crossings that happened. And this was when I was in my 20s. So it's quite a long time ago that this happened. So I had graduated from college, and I was an English major, which means I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I ended up on a farm in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. I was living on the East Coast at the time, and I'm working on this farm, and it was run by this kid. He was about my age, and he was a real Yankee. I don't know if y'all know about the Yankee thing, but they can be very stern and stoic. So this guy, he spoke like 5 words a day, and that was only when asked direct questions. He was just this like Stuart. He was just guy. And he talked the owner of the farm into buying a tractor because it was only like a 5-acre farm. We'd been just doing it all by hand. And he said, let's get a tractor, and then you can really work this land, right? And he had all these attachments, plow and tiller and all these great things. And then a few weeks after that, he left. He goes, I'm going to start my own farm now. Bye. And so there was only a few of us there. The owner decided I should run the farm because we went to the same college. I'm like, okay, English major. This fits? Sure, I'll do that. Uh-huh. Now, I have to say, the manager was the one who needed to work and drive the tractor. I was 23 years old, and I did not have a driver's license. Because back in the day when I was growing up in Ohio and they had driver's ed at school, I was really intimidated by the whole thing. Now, it didn't help that I was a queer, gender-rich nerd, and I didn't yet know that those were actually good things. At the time, I just didn't like myself. I was not in my body. But I had to drive, and then my driver's ed teacher was rumored to have a few DUIs, and she drove demolition derby cars on the weekend. And then I had 2 other kids in the car with me, one of whom grew up on a farm, so he'd been driving since he was in diapers, right? And then the other girl in our car, I think she got most of her driving experience stealing cars. She was scary. So I couldn't drive with these people, like, no. And the driver's ed teacher knew that too, because when it was my turn, she would take me out like on country roads, so I didn't have to interact with traffic or any stop sign, and anything. I just could kind of like drive. Yeah. So here I am, 7 years later, still not a driver, and I'm supposed to drive the tractor. Okay, sure, how hard can it be? I got a few weeks of instruction from Stuart before he left, but he only spoke the 5 words a day, right? So I didn't really learn much. I can still remember my first day of working in the farm. Stuart had left on a Thursday, so it's a Friday, end of the week. And I spent the morning doing some various things. It was going okay, but then I've been putting it off. I knew I had to get on the tractor and go till a field. Now, you probably know little rototillers, right? The rototiller on this tractor was about that big, and the only way to get the rototiller hitched on the tractor was you had to back it up directly. It had these big U hitches on the back of the rototiller because you couldn't move the thing, so you had to back the tractor like directly into the tiller. Okay? So I jump on the tractor, I put it in reverse, I back into the tiller, missed it, didn't do it. Forward, reverse, nope. Try again. Oh, now I'm getting farther away. So I did this for an hour. I tried for an hour to get that tractor backed into that tiller, and I couldn't do it. So I'm sitting there on the tractor, and I'm like about to cry. I'm like, what am I going to do? If I can't do this, I can't run the farm. Like, I can't, no one else is around. Very small farms, just me. Finally, I remembered, because I had discovered the spiritual path at this point, I finally remembered to ask for help. But this was one of those asking for help that came out, help, right? But then I stayed still and I listened, and I heard a voice that said, step away from the tractor and go home. So I did. I got off the tractor and I went home, and by that I mean I rode my bike home because, not a driver. And I spent the weekend just kind of contemplating like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I knew that Spirit had led me to the farm, right? I had already had an experience in my life where I had realized that Spirit is real, it's in me, it's all around me, and I'm devoting my life to following this wherever it wants me to go. And it led me to the farm. And I didn't know why. I really didn't know why I was there. But I knew I was supposed to be there. I did feel that. And so even though it made no sense that I was there to begin with, and it made no sense because I don't think I can drive this tractor, I don't think I can do this, I know I'm supposed to be here. My little small self doesn't get it, but okay, Spirit. So Monday, I get back on my bike, and I ride back to the farm, and I just went right for it. I went right down to the barn and got on the tractor and backed up. And the first time, like I've been doing it forever, I just backed that tractor into the tiller like butter. Like I'd been doing it all my life. It was amazing. And I learned something then that I've never forgotten. That whole need, sometimes when things are hard and we don't get it and we're scared, you just need to step away from the tractor and ask for help and listen, right? And it was amazing because I spent 7 more years at that farm. And during that time, I was able to see all the reasons I was supposed to be there that I couldn't see at the beginning. Being outdoors all the time really grounded me in my body in a way that I really needed to. And I was healing from an eating disorder at the time, and growing my own food really helped quell a lot of fear and anxiety in me. I also, because I was at the farm, got to dress however I wanted. So in terms of my queer, gender-rich expression, I was able to just really start to express myself. I also learned to drive very well, I must say. I got really good at backing. I actually hate the backup cameras because I'm like, I want to show off my backing skills, you know? And those cameras now, whatever. And I also really grew in confidence because I would never have chosen to run that farm. I would never have chosen to take all that on and do a whole thing that I didn't even know how to do, right? And that really allowed me to grow my confidence, grow my self-esteem, all these gifts that I had no idea, right? And it was all because I was willing in that time of choice to stop and ask Spirit for help and listen. Because when we do that, when we stop and ask for help and listen and then do what we get to do, which sometimes comes right away and sometimes does not, let's be real, right? Sometimes we gotta wait for it, right? But when we do that, Spirit always answers. Spirit always answers. So now I actually have a mantra to describe that experience of stopping, asking for help, listening. My mantra is, step away from the tractor. Say it with me. Step away from the tractor. Thank you. My work here is done. All right. Melissa has another story now of asking for help. I give you Melissa Felipe. Thank you.
Step away from the tractor. So, my story starts with my 13-year-old self, because at the age of 13, I didn't know how to process feelings, and I didn't like being me, so I became a full-blown drug addict. Now, I put those together like that, but whatever. Maybe I would have been a drug addict anyway, but I became a full-blown drug addict at the age of 13, which now I understand is very young. I had a lot of feelings at 13, hormones, you know, and I did not know how to process feelings. I did not know a thing about it. And I had so many, drugs really helped me. And for a long time, I had no idea I was a drug addict. I was just, partying, having fun. Yeah. Back then, partying looked like a lot of drugs of all kinds all day long. But I still didn't, you don't know you're an addict till you try to stop and you can't. So years forward, I'm dabbling in spiritual work. Now, by this time in my life, I'd had a series of experiences that, including overdosing a couple times on drugs, almost dying once. Actually, my heart stopped. So technically, I guess I died, but I'm still here. So, I kept going. I'm still standing. So by then, these things had happened that led me to this time where I was only drinking and smoking pot. Now, for anyone in here who is maybe a recovering alcoholic or a pothead, you can understand there are people who can do these things without it being a problem. I'm not saying that alone is a problem, but for me, I couldn't stop, and I wanted to. So I found myself at the age of 31 years old, completely lost. I had been really suffering. I'd had this ongoing connection with Spirit, but not at all like today. I was doing workshops and things, but I was praying a lot, but not like we pray here, not like I pray today, because my prayers then just were a suffering human crying out for help. Like please, please, please let this stop. So at the end of my using days, this is what it looked like. Every day, every morning, I would say, today is the day. I'm going to make it through the day without smoking. Now, pot was my main thing, they say, in rooms of recovery. That brought me to my knees. Like, it was the thing. I couldn't stop. So I would say, I'm not going to smoke. And I would make it to some point during the day. And then, like a good drug addict, I would think, well, obviously, I made it till this far in the day, so I can stop anytime I want to. And I don't really feel like it now, today. So I'm just going to get high. And so I would get high, and then I would feel like, what the hell did I do that for? Now I just used, and I said I was going to make it through the day, and I would beat myself up and feel horrible, like horrible, like I am a shameful piece of dirt, kind of horrible, till the end of the day when I would say, tomorrow is going to be the day. Can anyone relate to this kind of cycle? It's not just drugs and alcohol. Yeah. So there was this one particular day that I thought was going to be a very good thing. I ran out of pot. Now, I thought this was great because it meant tomorrow, when I say I'm going to make it through the day, I'm not going to have a choice because I got nothing, right? Next day comes, sure enough, I made it through the day. I made it all the way through the day. I had students and clients. I mean, I was a very highly functioning using person at the time. So I made it through my whole day, finish up my whole day, get in bed. I'm laying in bed, not falling asleep, and I make a phone call. 11 o'clock at night, I call my brother, one of my favorite using buddies, my brother Randy, who's also clean, by the way. And I said, got anything? He said, yes, and I got out of bed, threw on some clothes, went and found my car. Lived in San Francisco at the time. You had to find your car. And then I drove 45, well, it was probably an hour over from San Francisco to Marin County for whatever he had, which happened to be one joint. While driving there, I had to get gas, and I was driving out of the gas station. You know these moments that you remember, these crystal clear moments in the midst of a fog? This was one of those. I was driving out of the driveway of the gas station, and I said to myself out loud, laughing like, oh, it's so funny, ha, this is almost like something a drug addict would do. Almost, yeah, almost. So that's a pretty clear memory. Months later, I'm still in the same cycle. Every day is going to be the day. Every day I make it. And now it's starting to be, there's kind of a pattern brewing. That is, it's earlier and earlier in the day when I have the rationalizing judgment, bad judgment, whatever you want to call it, of obviously I made it this far, I can use now, and I can be clean tomorrow. It's getting earlier, and it's getting more and more painful. I'm hating myself more and more fervently and promising myself more and more determinedly, I think that's a word, that tomorrow's going to be the day. Now, at the same time, at this point, right at this point in my life, Spirit is so amazing. I met this friend, this new friend, and we fell really into quick friendship. He was a really great guy, and he had 3 years sober from being an alcoholic. Now, he had a great life. He was hot, he was sober. He had a really great job. He was thriving. He was happy. And then he would tell me these awful stories. I mean, he was like a gutter drunk. Like, he had stories that made me feel nauseous. They were so disgusting about being an alcoholic. Because when you're poor and you're an alcoholic, because you've lost your life, because you're such an alcoholic, it can get pretty dark. And his life was really dark and hard. And he was telling me these stories from this place of fabulous, thriving life. And I kept having these conversations with him and walking away going, gosh, if he can do that from this to this, I maybe can actually stop. Maybe I can actually stop. Maybe. And so one night, I found myself about 5 o'clock at night. I'd finished all my students for the day, and I had a joint and matches, but I picked up the phone, and I called him. And I got his answering machine. Remember answering machines? How frustrating. So I left him a voicemail, said, okay, Barry, I'm sitting here with a joint in one hand and a match in the other. And if you don't call me in the next probably 30 seconds, I'm not going to make it through the day. So there you go. That's my message. Click. Great message for a recovering person to get. So he knew just what to do. He called me back. He asked me if I was high. He asked me if I was sorry that I was high. And he asked me if I wanted to stop. And I said, yes, yes, yes. So he had me go get a phone book. Remember those? Back with the answering machines. The phone book, and he had me look up a program and call the program and find out if there was a meeting the next day that I could make as early as possible in the day, if possible. So I did. He had me go, and then he said, I want you to go to that meeting, and before the end of the meeting, raise your hand and say, I am an addict and I need help. I need phone numbers because I can't make it through the day without something. I'm either going to have drugs or I need help. And I didn't know what help looked like that would work because I had been trying for a long time with all other kinds of help. So I went to that meeting and I did that thing, and I walked out of that meeting with 6 phone numbers and a sponsor. I had to ask for help. I made it through that day. I made it all the way through that day. But I was calling my sponsor, and I was calling all those other numbers and Spirit all day, all day, all day, all day to make it through the day. That day was Friday, July 31st, 1989, which is 33 years, 10 months, and 11 days ago, and I am clean to this day that long. Thank you. Lots of one day at a time, and lots of asking for help along the way, right? Now, the good thing is I can even navigate emotions. I still have them, right? I even know kind of what to do with them sometimes. And I certainly know how to ask for help. And in all of this time, in all of these years, I have developed a different and deeper relationship with Spirit. In this process of this development of Spirit, I have grown comfortable, really comfortable, asking for help. All day, every day, asking for help. Leaning into my higher power. So much so that I'm now Reverend Melissa, because I dig it that much. I think it's that cool. So I can stand here talking to you about asking, right? This is cool. This is really cool. And the reason I do all this is because all of the best yumminess of my life has come from asking for help, and then listening to the answers and following, even when it's hard. Because the truth is that right here in me, right now, and right there in every seat and every sofa or bed that is occupied by those at home, every place that we inhabit is filled with the answers because we are filled with the divine. So when we ask, there are answers. And we are always facing some little body of water to cross, right? It's either a little puddle, which we feel like, oh, I'll hop over this. I ask anyway first, right? Because that's my practice. Or it's a raging river where we can't find the bridge. Regardless of what water we are facing, if we ask and listen and follow, we will be led to the other side in a greater way. Because when we listen and follow, there are always answers. Breathing, breathing, deep breath. For now, I invite you to close your eyes and take a deep breath. and ask this following thing. In what area of my life do I find myself standing at the water's edge? Just one thing. And see yourself standing at the water's edge and tune in to your heart. Good. And allow whatever answers, however they come, as colors, as words, as phrases, as images, whatever comes, let it come in answer to these questions that you ask. Spirit, what do I need to know about my next step? What is mine to do and not do? Good. And Spirit, by any chance, do you have some kind of image or symbol for me that will help to lead me in your best direction, to remember your guidance? Be aware that whether clarity comes now or later today or sometime soon or way later, Spirit always answers when we keep listening. So keep listening. And for now, take a deep breath, returning your awareness to the room.
Let us pray. I invite you to take another deep breath. Inhale and exhale with a sigh.
Spirit, carry me. Spirit, carry me. I can't see my way over, so I pray till you carry me.
There is only one life, one source, one infinite power of divine grace and beauty and peace and love and wisdom. This is the truth and the essence of me. This is the truth and the essence of each and every one of us here in this room, watching at home, and everywhere throughout this planet and beyond. We are sourced by Source. And so I speak a word right here, right now, accepting for each and every one of us a deeper connection with the Source, a greater willingness to ask, a greater reception for listening, and for then following what we are given, each one of us, with this unique connection with Spirit and unique path and unique steps to take. And I accept for each one of us that as we do this, deepen this connection to Source and do what it tells us to do, that we are bringing greater good not only for our own lives, but the lives of our loved ones and beyond, truly making the world a better place. And so with great gratitude for this knowing, for this deepening of our connection with Source and asking and listening and knowing and following, I just give this back to that one in each and every one of us that says yes, that says absolutely yes. We say yes. Spirit says yes. Everybody says yes. And if you are in alignment with this prayer, please repeat after me, and so it is. Amen.
I can't see my way over, so I pray till you carry me, and I'll stay till you carry me.
Amen.